Hello, hello, hello. I hope everyone is doing well. So, I just had this topic on my mind for a while and I wanted to bring it up. But I was thinking about one episode of a YouTube channel I was watching, and there was this young lady on there being interviewed, and she said she did OnlyFans. So, if you know anything about that, that's adult entertainment. And she talked about her top three types of viewers of her content. I believe she said the number one viewer was the type of man who had a lot of money. I forget what she said the second viewer was, but I very vividly remember her saying the third viewer was the man in a committed relationship. So that could be boyfriends and husbands. And I thought that was very interesting. And part of me wants to believe that wow, people in committed relationships, no matter the gender of that person, they're committed and they are faithful. But yes, we are in a world today that has massively changed, and we know that infidelity has been around for a long time. It has not stopped and it's not going to stop, but it seems like in recent years it has intensified, and I believe one of the reasons it has intensified is because of platforms like OnlyFans. And there's this whole fantasizing that has been going on more and more and more, which leads me to bring up the guy that I feel the most unsafe around based on experience. Based on experience. Now, I hate to say this and I hate to bring this up, but it is the man who is the quote unquote God fearing. So basically, a Christian man, a man who claims to have morals, but he's that man who's in a committed relationship, and most especially a marriage. And yeah, and even more so if he's in a marriage but he's also a father. That is the man I find myself feeling the most unsafe around. And so I'm just going to give you an example of something that happened in 2022. I did have two cases happening in 2024 because I'm thinking, my goodness, 2024 is the year that I've had the most situations with the married men being the way they have been toward me. And I do talk more about the reasons that I believe that's happening in my last video, which is titled Jealous People Are Quitting This. So in 2022, I don't know if you know, if you're watching this on Facebook, you may already know, but then on YouTube, you don't know. In 2022, I did have a guy in an airport in Atlanta. He assaulted me sexually in the airport in 2022. So it was this guy. He could have easily been my parents' age. My parents, for reference, are in their late 50s and early 60s. And back then, in 2022, they were just a little bit younger. So the fella was in their age range, and he talked to me in the airport, just in the waiting area. We were waiting for our flights, and he just seemed like a person who was just cool to chit chat with by having conversation, just having business conversation. I'm a business owner. He was in business, and we were talking, and somebody was good conversation, seemed like to me. And at one point he leaned over and he said, well, I want you to, I guess do something for me. And I was like, what is that? I want you to come and do for me what a woman would do for a man. And he's like, and I'm looking at him thinking, are you serious? And he was so serious about it, and I was shocked, and I said, I don't do anything like that. And he said, why not? And so he was just seemed like he was so shocked about it, and like he was taken aback. And I'm thinking, man, this man has been around the block before. But one thing I noticed about that particular man was that he was a married man. He was wearing a ring on the ring finger, and he leaned over to have that conversation with me, and he was whispering. And so at different points in our conversation, when I was just talking about some things going in my life or whatever, he was telling me, shh, be quiet. He'll keep it lower, keep it low, keep your voice low, keep your voice low. And I'm thinking, why does he keep saying this to me? And then eventually that's when he made that sexual proposition toward me, and I refused it. So I'm thinking at that point in time, the conversation is over, but no, it was not over. So we could go on to talk about business or whatnot for a few more minutes. I think he goes to the restroom, he comes back, and then he leans over and he touches me in a sexually suggestive manner. He does it so quickly that I'm like, what in the world was that? I was taken aback. and I was frozen. I was in shock by the whole situation. So there was really no response to it. And I did mention this before on my page in the past when I talked about the anniversary of it last November, because this was November 2022. And I just remember feeling like trash, feeling like a mess. And this man was okay with violating me right there in the airport, all because he wanted some sex. And I'm thinking, okay, I don't know why in the world for you're acting like that was okay when it was never okay. Some of these men, I don't know what the home situation is like, but actually it's none of my business because I'm not their wife. All I know is a married man propositioning me in any kind of way of that nature is highly inappropriate, and I'm not for that. And by the way, one thing that I did bring up, I did a live on Instagram at that time. The Instagram, I have since deactivated the Instagram account, but I was mentioning how I was dressed in no particular way that people will automatically assume that someone who faces assault, of a sexual manner, they automatically assume that, oh, you were dressed in a way that was scantily clad, and this is why that happened to you. No, it wasn't like that at all. As a matter of fact, I was wearing this skirt right here. Sorry, it's wrinkled because I hadn't worn it in a while. I was wearing this skirt in a business-like shirt. So nothing about that, and this goes down to my knees. So nothing about that was considered scantily clad. Actually, I had just come from work that day as a school speech language pathologist, so you have to dress appropriately when you go to these jobs anyway, which I was. So I wasn't dressed in any kind of way that would ever suggest that I needed somebody to come and ever make any sexual propositions toward me. Yet that was what ended up happening anyway. Right, so something that was unfortunate that happened, but this was a married man, and at one point I heard him talking on the phone to a relative. So what I learned there was that he was also a father. So I'm thinking, you're a father, and if I heard correctly, I think he at least had a daughter and a son. So he, I'm thinking like, okay, you're okay with coming at somebody else's daughter, but I feel like some of these men, like, if hypothetically happened to their own child, they would go and go after that person who came after their child. But in the same sense, another woman, they wouldn't care about that woman enough to make sure she was safe. So I thought that was pretty interesting. That type of man is not one that I ever want to be associated with. And, they make me feel uncomfortable, like really highly uncomfortable, because at the end of the day, they seem like the main goal is self, that person's individual self. They don't care about what it could do to their family. They don't care about what it could do to the person that they're being inappropriate toward. They're only thinking about themselves in that moment, and that should not be something that they're prioritizing at their particular time anyway. Again, I did mention reasons that I believe the root of that issue is in the last video called Jealous People Are Quitting This, so go ahead and check that one out. It's highly disturbing. And also this whole ideal of the fantasizing. So I thought that situation was a one-off, and I'm thinking, okay, this is it. But then in January of this year, I had a male church member touch me inappropriately, and I do talk about that a little bit more in depth in my video. And I'm wearing a blue t-shirt. You'll have to scroll down on there. I know on YouTube it is the very first video that I have posted on YouTube, and on the Facebook account you just have to scroll down until you find the blue t-shirt video, and I'm talking about that and how that was highly inappropriate. But he too snuck in and swooped in and touched me inappropriately while proudly wearing his wedding band. And I thought that was pretty interesting to me. So it's highly inappropriate. I'm not feeling safe. At that time, again, I'm taken aback. I'm thinking, what's going on? By the way, none of these men that I'm mentioning were anyone that I ever in any kind of way alluded to any type of romantic, never suggested any romantic interest in them at all. As a matter of fact, people who are around my parents' age, because when I was a child growing up and my parents would have their friends over and whatnot, fortunately, I'm blessed that I don't have stories to tell as an adult. Like some people have stories to tell as an adult about somebody being inappropriate toward them, in a sexual manner as children. I don't have those stories. So I always look at people around my parents' age as like, in this way, like, oh man, these are people who deserve reverence and respect. And I look at them in that way. So I don't look at people in my parents' age automatically as someone that I would in like dating age type, things like that. So unfortunately, not only am I taken aback when those, like, friends, those two men did what they did, but I'm also disgusted because I'm like, that for me, that age gap for the both of those men, and it was something like 20 years. That's way up outside my dating range. So I'm just thinking, that's not an age range I'm really interested in anyway. I know the dude at the airport, I know one thing he alluded to was having money, and he kind of suggested that it would be kind of like I would be a sugar baby or some sort, as if he would give me money over time if I agreed to the arrangement. But money's not gonna do that for me. I'm good there. I'm okay. So I know in our society we live in today, some people, they go with their arrangement and they do what they do, but that's not me at all. So I thought to myself, this is problematic. This is not something I know that I want to ever engage in, but I know it makes me feel more and more uncomfortable. And I've learned that there's been fantasizing has been more of a thing over the years amongst men, especially they've been on those adult websites, unfortunately. And instead of doing the right thing and not letting that overtake them, they're letting lust take over their spirits, and anyone they find attractive, they're just kind of at this point going for it. They may have held back for a while, for some years or whatever, but because the weakness is so strong, they'll just kind of go for it, whatever they want to go for. As a result, it leaves women like me, who's just a single woman in the world, trying to go out here, do the right thing. Because I'd have been out there in the world before, have done some things, not a lot, but I have a past, which is the book that I'm getting ready to come out with, and more than likely on YouTube in a couple of weeks, I'm gonna come out, and I'm just kind of going to verbally tell the story in a series of videos. And I had those men in the past. There are some things that I've done that I'm not proud of. I never one time ever suggested that I was a perfect woman at any time, but one thing I'm blessed to know about, coming from those situations, that they did gang me, and they gamed me good. So I find it very interesting today that those men who are, especially those committed married men, and especially ones who call themselves Christian and God-fearing, are interested in coming up to me and making their moves on me, and I'm not interested in no married man. I'm sorry. I don't care if I even found you attractive. I'm not interested in you. You're not even mine. So those men make me feel the most unsafe, because I'm thinking to myself, like, something in your mind is telling you it's okay to, like, even in that moment, like, kind of leave your family unattended to, in a place of, think about it. If you're not attending to your family because you're out here managing something that has nothing to do with your family, you put your family more at risk, right? Which means that if you're okay with putting your family more at risk because you're up there tending to something else you're not supposed to be tending to, right? Versus if you out, I give you out and about, and you tend to stuff that's going to make your family life better. But this ain't making your family life better. If, for instance, you get exposed for whatever reason, your family's life is actually worse, because now everybody knows about it. And people gossip. People love gossiping and chit-chatting and talking about folks' business all the time, and they don't just stop talking about it. Like, you've heard about the trophy wife situation. People have been talking about it, and when it burst out, from the time it burst out, so I guess like in the last few days they finally died down, but I think that's been going on for like 3 weeks or so, right? The whole trophy wife situation. People will go and talk about your business. So if you're in a position that you'll let lust fill you, like for the men out here, let lust fill you to the point that you'll leave your family to do whatever you want to do for whatever selfish reason, and it leaving them at risk, whatever could happen to them, that I can definitely see you not caring about my well-being long term, which is all the more reason I don't want to be around you. Then not to mention trying to get with you in no sexual manner. I'm like, I'm good. I'm okay. Like, I'm good. But those men, they're already scary for me. They already make me unsettled. They're too comfortable with being unfaithful. They find that okay. They think that's cute until one day they get caught, and then it's not cute anymore. So there's nothing about that, about fun. I guess it's fun and games at one point, but at some point that comes to an end. I haven't heard of anyone who lived the cheating lifestyle who in the end it was a happy, fulfilling life for them long term. You know, you might get what you want briefly for a little while, but after a while, that comes down. You know, that good time, that fun time ends. I mean, so I don't understand why people don't want to heed that. Also, something else I thought about when I learned about the men, they're kind of giving themselves more so over to fantasy. So they're suspending their sense of reality when they do that. When they decide, I'm going to fantasize and I'm going to go off of fantasy, they're no longer allowing reality to guide them. They're letting the fantasy guide them, which is why some of them I've noticed have become more reckless. And there's a therapist that I mentioned in the last video. Go and look her up because there's an episode that she's in. And one thing she said in the episode, and I referenced that episode in the last video, so check out the last video I did on YouTube and Facebook that's called Jealous People Are Quitting. She mentioned that men are actually the most reckless cheaters. Like, if you're looking at men and women, she said men are actually the most reckless cheaters. And I agree with that, because I'm thinking, wow, once they've let that lust overpower them, there are so many things up in the air that they're not even thinking about, like, that they can be exposed for, and they don't even think nothing about that. I'm just thinking, you can tell they're not even thinking about their immediate future. Like the fact that someone can speak up against them and say something about them, and then they come back to whatever the environment that they're in, that shared community, and they're embarrassed, or the world knows something about them if they're of a bigger name, and now they're embarrassed and they're ashamed before the world. So that you can tell they're not even thinking about that. But it's said that more and more men are falling to fantasy. There's this one guy I check out sometimes. I think he's 60. He's about to be 60. And he himself, he admits to having been a former player. And he gives these different talks, these videos on YouTube, and it's about men. And he doesn't profess to be like Christian or anything like that. So one thing I know he does a lot is he curses like a sailor, which I'm not a big fan of him cursing like a sailor, but I will say I do what that saying says. I chew up the meat, spit out the bones. And one thing he talks about is the men leading and going out there with using fantasy to decide on a woman. And a woman could be sitting up here and showing all the signs that she's not interested in doing anything with him at all. And he still wants to keep pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing for that woman. Then when he comes back later, hurt, because the woman didn't go for him, after she clearly showed him signs that she was not interested, then he's ready to look at women as, oh, they ain't nothing. They this, they that, da 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 da. But he's not ready to look at himself, to look at the fact that he was moving off of fantasy. So I don't want to be around no man who's letting fantasy and lust lead him. They are the ones who will put you in danger quicker than anybody else. As R.C. Blake said in a video I watched the other day, he said for 120 seconds, 120 seconds. And I was like, wow. He said, you ready to risk it all for 120 seconds? I was like, it seems like that's what's happening. It seems like that's where the world's going to. So yeah, I don't want to be around no man who ready to risk it all for 120 seconds. I'm good, So what I do at the end of the day, is I like to stay away from these dudes. I pray for them that they will go find their way back. Again, I started this video talking about the God-fearing man, that I pray for those men to go back and find God again, because God is not going to just save you and swoop in and save you from your lust. Everyone has free will and a free choice. So those men have to decide, this is not a life I'm going to allow myself to be a slave to anymore. They have to allow themselves to go back to God. So if I was going to be praying for them, in the meantime, at the same time, when I see that in them, I'm going to do everything I can to stay far away from them, because for me, they're not safe at all. They don't have any good intentions. I can't see them being positive or doing something positive in the future. As a matter of fact, I don't even associate with any married men unless there are people who, we're talking about some of the common goals or something that's talking about something that's for the improvement of something in the world getting better. Ain't nothing of a nature of somebody finna get some sexual pleasure out of whatever. No, we're trying to work on making the world a better place. So if anything sexual is about to be up in our conversation, please go ahead and leave me out. I pray that you and your wife could get together and reconcile and do what y'all need to do, whatever need to be, or you go to the therapy and get the help that you need to get. But I'm not going to be the person who's going to be a part of the foolishness. So at the end of the day, I have to protect myself against that type of man. Unfortunately, I recognize he's going to keep on coming and keep coming and keep coming. And I've heard other women talk about some married men, what they call the joke, the running joke is it the single married man or the married single man, something like that. It's like the man he's very much married, but he moves about as if he's single. And some of these dudes, like all the dudes I've noticed between 2022, 2024, who's made their advances toward me, oh, they probably wear their wedding ring, baby. They probably wear their wedding ring, and they still making them sexual advances, and they do not care. And I'm just thinking, yeah, if you that reckless, I don't want to be around anybody that reckless. Like, I'm already not about to go with no married man and do anything I have no business doing with a married man. But I don't even want to be around you if you show me that type of recklessness. I'm good. I am good. I know the Lord gonna bless me with who I'm supposed to have. Whatever His will, He's gonna bless me with that. In the meantime, I'm not looking for nobody else, man. So I just really want to bring this out and talk to you about this. I don't know who anyone else is going through that same situation. Again, I do talk about more about as to the why I feel like that's happening more in the last video. Jealous people are quitting this, so be sure to check that one out as well. And I'll talk to y'all next time. Bye-bye.